Get the views now of Hardouvelis. He's the chief economist and head of economic research at Eurobank EFG Group. Thank you so much for joining us. It does seem like now the government has a clear mandate to continue with the austerity measures, but we're hearing concerns also across the board that these austerity measures will choke off any form of recovery. Are you concerned that there are too many austerity measures being put on the table?
Not really, Francine. I think Greek society has matured. They demand that their government fixes the general public sector. What I think we're going to see in the immediate future is a lid on general government expenses, on hospitals, on transportation companies, on companies in the local governments. So this is what has to take place. And they are up to do it. They've got the votes.
It looks like the 2009 deficit will be 15% of GDP. Does that mean that the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister really need to up their targets?
Not really, because remember, this is the 2009 deficit. It's not the 2010 or 2011 that matters. In fact, it's nice to sort of get a clean bill from Eurostat. We expect the new numbers to come out in a week or two, and it doesn't matter whether the deficit is 15 or 16%.
But what does it mean for his targets for next year?
Is that there are no asterisks in these numbers.
So what does it mean
the
for
targets? I think the government will. Excuse me. I think that the government will stick to its targets. It will not deviate. It's very important to gain back credibility. Credibility is number one, and they'll do everything for it. They know they have increased tax rates. They cannot move in that front. They can only grab tax evasion. So their task is to put a lid on expenses, and they'll do it. And it's the general government that's going to hurt in the coming year.
Hardouvelis, you have worked in the past for the Finance Ministry. Do we need to consider debt restructuring?
I didn't hear you, Francine, well, I'm sorry.
Do we need to consider...
What was the question?
Do we need to consider debt restructuring for Greece, or would that be too painful?
Oh, debt. No. I think debt restructuring is out of the question. If debt restructuring occurs, first of all, it's going to be an EMU decision. It will not be a Greek decision, because the Greek debt is owned not only by Greeks, not only by Greek banks and the Greek unions, it's owned by EMU banks. So any types of restructuring which is going to cut from the present value of the debt is going to hurt the Belgian banking system, the French, the German, the Swiss, and the Greek banking system, of course. So this is going to be an EMU decision. I don't think there is a choice there. I mean, for Greeks and Greece in general, the choices are two. You either follow the MOU and its program, or you risk being kicked out of the European Union altogether and really risking a downgrade of your living standards.
What do you say to
So every Greek understands that.
What do you say to economists that think that actually there's still a big risk of a default in Greece in the next 2 to 3 years?
I know everybody is worried about this, naturally. I don't think this is the biggest risk right now. The default case is not the biggest risk. The biggest risk for the Greek economy is for it to stop sliding further and further south. The recession has to stop, hopefully in the second half of 2011. And once you have growth coming back, then the deficit problem, the debt problem, is after all a growth problem, would be less of a problem. The markets will line up with the new Greece and a new future, I think. It's definitely a risk, but it's not the primary risk.
Hardouvelis, thank you so much for joining us today.